Welcome to Operation Alaska Blitz. My buddy Rick is flying into town, and we planned to see as much of Alaska on the road system as possible over 3 days right after he gets here, before he heads south to Florida. I started out riding from my house in Tote 200 miles to Fairbanks to meet Rick on the evening of May 1st, right after I got off work. Thankfully, now that it is getting into spring, early summer, the sun sets very late and riding hours are pretty much whenever you want them to be. The sun here is setting at 10:30 p.m. I met up with Rick. We went to Nenana, spent the night there, and then hit the road in the morning. We went south on the Parks Highway, through Healy, and into the town of Denali, and then on south to the Denali National Park. Here's the Nenana River Bridge just prior to the town of Denali. We had mostly sunny skies and pretty good weather. This time of year is one of the less pretty times of year, since the snow has melted and things have not yet turned green. It's still a great time though. Even if it isn't the prettiest time, it's always exciting to have winter ending and summer beginning. Here we're riding into the Denali National Park on the Denali National Park Road. It is open to the public in the early season up until May 15th, I believe, up to the 30-mile point. Normally they have it gated and only let tour buses in past Savage River, which is around 15 miles in. So it was nice to catch the early season and be able to ride back a bit further than normal personal vehicle traffic is allowed to go. Then back out on the Parks Highway, we continued south. Down in the Cantwell area, we found that there was a lot of snow yet, and very little of it had, or it appears that very little of it had melted from the sides of the road. There are large gaps where I didn't capture a lot of footage just due to lighting, the clouds, and there not being a lot of significantly varying scenery. This here is the Sterling Highway. We made it all the way down past Soldotna, where we pitched camp for the night, and I spent the night in my hammock tent. I find that a hammock is far superior to sleeping on the ground. I tend to sleep a lot more comfortably, and certainly like my cheap Amazon hammock. That morning, we packed up camp and got on the road, made it down to Homer. This is just as you're coming into town, overlooking the ocean in this area. When it's not so cloudy and hazy, the mountains on the other side of the bay there are very pretty. Here you can see the Homer Spit down there extending into the water, and then here we are riding across it to the end of the road at Land's End Hotel, where we stopped to watch the water for a few minutes. Then we hopped back on the road and ran back up through Soldotna, across this whole Sterling Highway, all the way to the Seward Highway again, and turned right to go down to Seward. I had only been over the last 40-mile stretch of the Seward Highway one time in the last several years, and that was in the winter. Made a stop in Seward, had fish and chips at a local restaurant, and then turned around and headed back north. It started raining on us pretty significantly on the way north, and shortly before the Whittier tunnel, more on that shortly, there was sheets of rain blowing sideways as we rounded the edges of the mountains. We were thankful for some good rain gear. In Whittier, through the tunnel, we stopped at Swiftwater Seafood Cafe, had a bowl of clam chowder, and then turned around to head back through the tunnel again, and we'll talk about it a bit more here this time. The tunnel is a single lane, it is on the railroad tracks, and it is carefully controlled to coordinate traffic in both directions and the train. The release of traffic in each direction is done every half hour inbound, a half hour and outbound an hour, or maybe vice versa. Through the tunnel, they tell motorcycles to wait until last, and then you enter and are supposed to stay between the tracks to avoid the likelihood of wiping out and having a collision. It's not too difficult, but it's kind of cool to see the first time you go through there. Really, in my opinion, the tunnel is the whole reason you should try to visit Whittier. We ended May 3rd, the second full day of our trip, running back up the Seward Highway, turning in past Anchorage, and camping near Palmer. In the morning, we hit the road again on May 4th, made a stop at the Noisy Goose Cafe, had a great breakfast, and then hit the Glen Highway northbound towards Glen Allen. The twisties just north of Palmer on the Glen Highway are some of the more fun twisty roads in Alaska. There aren't that many of them. You do have to be a little bit careful this time of year, as you can never be quite sure that they have gone through with street sweeper and cleaned the shoulders yet. So you don't want to hit a gravel patch on those unsuspectingly if you cut a corner too fast. We got into Glen Allen, turned right on the Richardson Highway, and headed south to Valdez. Coming into the mountains, going up to Thompson Pass, we entered an area with a whole lot more snow. Temperatures cooled off a bit, and it was actually some very wet, slushy stuff falling here. It was not sticking to the road, just a little bit to my visor. I have never been into Valdez this early in the season, or in winter at all, and I was amazed to see the sharp difference between the extremely green area that it is in midsummer. I would say this is some of the greenest area in the whole state after the snow is thawed and the leaves come out. Winter is not quite ready to completely let go, although summer is certainly trying to come in. The waterfalls along the canyon here are absolutely stunning, and this area is well worth the visit anytime you might be able to ride into or through Alaska. We stopped through the boat harbor, had a bite to eat in Valdez, and then headed back over Thompson Pass. Back northbound on the Richardson, we will go past Glen Allen and then turn north on the Toke Cutoff, where we will ride on into Toke, where I live and where Rick will spend the night before heading on south to Canada and home to the lower 48. Check out the height of that snowdrift there to our right. Pretty crazy, huh? If the weather had not been quite so comfortable, I would have been significantly reminded of Operation Frozen Seal as we passed over the pass here. But fortunately for us, even at its coldest going over the pass, we still had weather that was 80 degrees warmer than we had seen on Expedition Frozen Seal. The sun was beginning to set in the late evening as we crossed the rest of the way over the Toke Cutoff, and we made it into Toke, making a total mileage for me for the weekend at 1,727 miles. A pretty impressive weekend ride. I certainly enjoyed it. We saw a lot of the state, and we don't have any complaints. Here's to another epic ride.